Hello there. Today we're going to talk about data that teachers and administrators can use in guiding their decision making to better perform within their schools. These currently do many different types of data, such as MAP and AIR data, which test third graders all the way through 12th grade in high school in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. There's also Swiss data, which looks at behaviors of students. And then the data I'm going to discuss today is the Ohio State Report Card, and that is accessible to anyone with an internet connection. Simply go to Google and type in Ohio Report Cards, and it will be the first link that pops up. It's also, if you'd rather type in reportcard.education.ohio.gov, you could, but simply typing Ohio Report Cards and clicking the first link in Google will make the website pop up. Then you can search any school or district within the state of Ohio to examine the report card that the Ohio Department of Education has given to that school/district. Today we're going to look at East Broadway Elementary School. Simply type it in and it'll pop up. Toledo City, Lucas County, and then it gives you the overview of the school. Overall, East Broadway has an F within Ohio, and as an administrator, I want to know why we're getting an F. An F in achievement means we're not passing our state testing scores. Progress is, are we growing students from one level of testing to the next, such as limited to basic and basic to proficient? We scored a D. Are we closing the gap for our subgroups, such as our special ed population or minorities? And we also scored an F in that. We do not have a graduation rate because that is for high schools only, and we are not a technical school, so we do not have the prepared for success area, but we did also score a DN for students at improving students at risk that are in kindergarten through third grade. As an administrator and teacher, I think looking at achievement is pretty eye-opening and can give us insight into why we're getting an F overall. So we're going to click more data under achievement, and then there's two spots. We have a performance index and indicators met right here. And the performance index is how many points we've scored on the state test. We got a 49.2 of a possible 120, which is a rating of an F according to the state. The way they calculated that is broken down right here on the left side. You can see the levels, and then the next to it is the percentage of students of your school that scored in that level. So for example, we had 60% of our students at East Broadway scored in the limited range on the state test, and you times 60% times 0.3, because that's how many points you get for anyone that's at a limited range, and that gives the school 18 points total. If the students don't take the test, you get 0 points, which is just over 0.5% at 0.6. Basic students in East Broadway, they were 20%. 20% and 60% is 80% of our school. 80% of our students at East Broadway are not performing at an acceptable rate. One part I really like about this website is looking at the trends, and I can look at the past 5 years put together right here for me, and I can see that we were at 74% and we've gone down to 49.2%. Another eye-opening thing is our limited has grown from 6% all the way to 18.2%. If I was the admin, I would want to know, why are we growing our limited from 6% to 18% in 5 years? And why are we shrinking our proficiency of students from 32% down to 12%? We can look on the right side of the indicators of what grades and how many students are passing the state test at that level. Right here, third grade had 22% pass the ELA test and 33% passed math. That's not a good number, but within East Broadway, it is a good number when you look at all the grades overall. I see a drop-off. If we look at the trends, we can see a drop-off. From 2014, we were at 56 and 61, and now we're at 22 and 33% respectively. I do know that we had our math teacher retire that taught 3rd grade here after this year, where it was 61, and we got a new teacher starting in 2015, and it's slowly growing right now, but as an administrator, I want to help that teacher grow more. And then our ELA teacher in 3rd grade retired in 2015, and our scores went way down to 2.4% of students passed in 2016. Unacceptable. So intensive supports were given, and they went up to 17. With 2 to 17 is a 15% increase in 1 year, which is acceptable. But 17 to 22 is only 5%. We want this to keep going up because we want 80% of our students passing the state tests. Teacher, if I was a 3rd grade teacher, I would like to look at the comparison and see how I'm doing compared to our district, which is right here. Red is East Broadway at 33% of students passing in math, and 41% of the students overall in the district pass math at the 3rd grade level. And then when you compare it to the rest of the state, we're way behind because they're at 67%. You can look at the comparison for any grade levels you want and see that we are behind the district on average in every grade level. And we need to do something as an administrator. As a teacher, I can say I need to get with my partner because this isn't a just me score, this is our score, and we need to improve it and at least catch the district and then pass the state within 5 years. So what kind of supports are we giving teachers as administrators to use with this data? You can use, any teacher can approach their administrator or ETI, which is a data coordinator, to help them understand the data, looking at the trends, looking at the comparison of the grade levels, and just seeing that in general we're going down and we need to reverse the trend, which isn't hard to understand in this case. If they want specific data on how to increase their students on the state test scores, the data coordinator and the principal and even the teacher could go online to the MAP or AIR testing website and get a class breakdown, and it'll give you weaknesses and strengths of the class, and then you know what areas you can work on or areas you need to work on next year before you take the state test. Be asking, why would we even use the state report card as a data point used in decision making? And it's pretty simple to me. It's because it's accessible to anyone, my superintendent, any other administrator, any teacher, any parent that wants to enroll their kids at our school or within the district can look. And since TPS is an open choice policy, parents can send their kids to other schools just by looking at the report card saying, well, they're getting Fs at this school and they're not passing their state test. I don't want to send my kid there, so we're going to go to this school over across the river. We can this show teachers and administrators areas that you need to work on to improve with low scores, but with high scores and grade levels that test at a higher rate or show improvement from year to year of getting students from one level to another level, that can be used as a celebration because it can show you what your strengths are within your school as well. It lets you compare apples to apples. I can compare East Broadway to Oakdale, which are 2 East Side schools within TPS, instead of comparing East Broadway to Perrysburg, which is an unfair comparison because East Broadway is 100% economically disadvantaged. Special ed population is 33%, and Perrysburg, meanwhile, numbers of SPED is proportionally lower, and their economically disadvantaged numbers are much, much lower than East Broadway. So it helps us compare apples to apples when we're looking at state report card. So how can the district improve itself looking at this data? You can look at the data, see schools that are failing, and then you can look at indicators such as subgroups. The subgroup data for East Broadway. We're going to go back to the overview. We're going to click on the gap closing, and here is the subgroup data. For ELA, these are the performance index. 54% of our students that are white are passing, and it breaks it down to students with disabilities. 45% of our students with disabilities are passing. And these red dots, they're the markers of where we want the percentage of students to be. So special ed is at 57% is our goal, according to Ohio, and we were at 45, which is close, but it's not there, so it's not good enough. In this data, for any school within TPS, we can break it down and see if we have a SPED population that is underperforming, and we could look at reasons why. Maybe we need to open up another unit or bring in more intensive approach to the building as a whole if our minority students are underperforming at a large level. Maybe we need a reading coach in grades K to 3. All of this data we can use this data and make judgments of that. We can also, we don't have graduation, you can look at the math. We can also say we need to reallocate resources to this school compared to other schools because they're underperforming. If a school had an overwhelming majority of white students and very little minority students, and then a school down the street had all the minority students and very little white students, the district could see that using the Ohio report card because it tells you the percentage of students. Clicking on the drop down school at a glance, you can go down to school detail and it'll break it down to you of how many of each subgroup of students we have percentage wise, and you can see East Broadway has 100% economically disadvantaged students, and the subgroups are broken down. Maybe they're going to realize East Broadway has a poverty problem. Let's give them more support, not necessarily more money, but how can we support them? As an administrator, this is important to understand that our students are coming to us economically disadvantaged. Maybe it's they need a breakfast, so let's give them breakfast in the morning before school starts because they can't afford it. Or maybe they need dinner, and that's why we have the Boys and Girls Club that provides a dinner and snack after school and somewhere for students to be. What other resources can we provide to our students to help them start achieving better? As an administrator, I can use all of this and make recommendations to the district. The district can use it, teachers can use it to know all of their students are economically disadvantaged, so their resources at home aren't great and we need to provide more at school within the classroom.